Hi, and welcome to episode 128 of the Heartland Knits podcast. My name is Vicki, but you can find me as Heartland Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. And today is Sunday, December 6th, 2015. It's also St. Nick's Day. Did you put your shoe out to get some candy or cookies or something? We never did that when I was a kid because this was also would have been my dad's birthday. He would have been 96 this year. We didn't really celebrate their birthdays, my parents' birthdays when we were kids, but we just kind of knew. I think probably my mom baked a cake or something, but we didn't have a big deal. But anyway, this is a knitting podcast. But like now, this day is sort of marks. I think of like my dad, and it also kind of starts. This week is always a hard week for me because it's, I think of him, and then it's also the anniversary of my sister's passing, and I think about her and, going out to New Hampshire when she was so sick and funeral and all of that stuff. So anyway, let me get on with the knitting and show you what's been on my needles. Not a lot has been on my needles. I kind of gave my wrist the week off. I really want to get it kind of back in shape, and it is feeling better. It's not like it's carpal tunnel or anything. I know it's just, it was like too much of that kind of knitting. But I wanted to sort of get back. I've been just like chomping to get back to that project, but I'm letting that one sit. I started something new. I showed you the yarn that I bought last week for a gift knitting, and because I have to give it not this week but the week after, and it's going to be something small, but still I don't want to have to kind of push on it and I like wait right to the end and have to like push on it. So I thought we'll start it now and then I'll kind of get going on it. So it's using this yarn. I wound it up. This is the Shibui Ma'ai. It's this really pretty blue, and it is so soft and really nice to knit with. I don't know if it's got this really, it's very, very stretchy. So it's kind of just the thing I need to work on. So I was, trying to decide what to knit out of this nice yarn. And I thought, instead of, I was kind of going between a cowl and fingerless mitts. And I sort of decided on fingerless mitts because I know I've knit some in the past and they didn't really take, all that much time. And I have patterns that I've used before that I like, but I thought, well, I remembered I got out this book, which is the first Botanical Knits book by Alana Dacos, and I know that there were a lot of little accessory pieces in here that I really liked that I haven't knit. So I thought, well, I'll look through here and see, if there is something that I want to use that yarn with. And I started looking through it, and I didn't think I wanted to do a hat. And then I came across this hat, which is the Forest Floor. And I just thought it was really pretty. She used a very comparable yarn. My yarn is 70-30 alpaca merino, and she used a 60-40 alpaca merino. So I thought it would, still be like nice and drapey, kind of like the picture. And it just looked like fun to knit. So last night I, just cast this on. I just have this tiny little bit. This is all the knitting that I did this week. This it's less than an inch of ribbing. Yeah, that's it. I decided on a hat. It looked really fun to knit, and it looked really pretty. And the person I'm giving this to has kind of long reddish hair. So I thought this blue would look really, pretty on her, you know. And if she doesn't like it or it doesn't fit or whatever, she's got 3 daughters. 2 of them are teenagers, so one is littler. So I'm thinking it won't go to waste, right? So I started this. I'm using um, my bamboo needles because bamboo needles are much kinder to your hands. And these are my interchangeables. I have the high interchangeables in both the sharps and the bamboos. So I'm using the bamboos, and right now it's on size 3 needles. But the big change to how I'm working this, and that's probably telling that I worked on this last night and I got kind of less than half an inch. Um, but I decided, because my hand is better, but it's still not like totally, better. Um, so I decided to sort of change up my knitting style. I normally knit left hand, continental, untensioned continental, but the yarn is in my left hand. So I'm mostly holding the knitting in my right hand and just moving, the stitches off, which is why when I knit on straight needles, I'm faster because I knit sort of, knitting belt style, um, kind of keeping that my right needle stationary and then just moving the left. So I decided to go and do English style, so that with that I am kind of gripping the yarn more in my left hand, so I don't have that issue with holding it, because that's where my wrist is hurting, is when I'm like holding the yarn. So and I'm just kind of using, I know that there are probably maybe a little more efficient ways of doing it, kind of using both hands more evenly, but right now I'm just kind of using it. I'm hardly, if I'm holding it at all with my right hand, it's just kind of my little fingers, my and just kind of throwing the yarn, and it's kind of nice. It feels very sort of um, deliberate and thoughtful, knitting it like this, and at that I'm knitting a gift for somebody. It feels right. But anyway, I'm slower with my right hand, and I'm trying to make sure, this yarn has this kind of chain construction, which makes it nice and stretchy, which also helps when knitting, my wrist. But because the with that chain, you want to make sure you kind of don't split, get your needle in there. And so the blunter points of the bamboo needles work better than like a really sharp needle. So anyway, all in all, it's like my new project. I'm just going to work on this a little bit at a time, just kind of try to get through it, and kind of give my hand still a little break, but still being able to knit a little bit. So that was my knitting for the week. So off the needles, I have nothing newly off the needles, but I thought I would show you something from my knitting past. I knit this sweater 4 years ago in 2011, and it's one of the sweaters I told you that I like to make for to wear instead of a coat, kind of like what I'm doing with that blue hand-to-hand cardigan. And so this is my round the bend jacket. So I'm going to hold this up so you can see it's kind of a big jacket. It is all in garter stitch. And then I'll show you the back. Well, the body is all in garter stitch. It's all done in the round. The sleeves are stockinette. So the way this is constructed is you start at the cuff and you're knitting. The cuff is knit um, with the garter stitch, and you knit that flat, and then you join it later with this I-cord. And then you're knitting in the round. You knit the sleeve in the round till you get up here, and then you start doing sort of, you miter it with short rows, going back and forth this way, and then going back and forth this way, and then you knit straight for a little bit, and then you do that like turning a corner. So like you're turning a corner, you do less and less rows, and then you do more and more and more. And so you do that down at the bottom, go around at the I'm caught. You go around the bottom, you turn this corner, and then you go up and you turn this corner. And then at the end, you unite these stitches. So then you do a whole another half in reverse, and then at the end, you unite the two sides with a sort of it's a modified I-cord. And then at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, it's got like a jacket, like a jacket does. It has this little like vent, which anyway, it was really fun to knit. This is a Meg Swanson design. It is from her little paperback book. I think it's called Hand Knitting, but it's got a light blue cover. It's out of print, but if you find it, it is just, I love that book. It has only maybe 9 or 10 designs in it, and I've knit 4 or 5 of them. I know I would love to knit like all of them in there. They're all just really clever, kind of inventive designs. And so if you ever see that little book, it's well worth picking up. And so the yarn that I used for this was Unspun Icelandic, a double strand of it. I love this yarn so much. So, I mean, this has been worn and worn and worn, and it does not show like pilling. That's kind of one of the advantages of these more kind of rustic wools, is they just hold up really well. So I've worn this a ton. It's one of my favorite things, sweaters to wear. And then I have 3 of these kind of Norwegian style latches. So it's really easy to wear. So anyway, this is one of my favorite sweaters. It's right up there with like my favorite. And it would actually, I would knit another one. It was, it's in the same line of that blue sweater that I'm knitting right now. It's all garter. I'm going to use it sort of for the same thing. But this was more fun because you had all that. It wasn't just straight garter back and forth. And that had a little bit of shaping, a little bit of short rows, and the cable design up the sleeve was nice. But this just, it was a little more fun. Keep your mind occupied while you're doing all that garter. So in spinning, I did finish a skein. I finished plying the yarn that I showed you that I finished spinning the single a couple weeks ago. So the single took like 6 weeks to spin, and the plying took about 2 weeks. And I did this kind of a little bit at a time, and I plied the single along with a thread of silk yarn or silk thread. And because I didn't really want to kind of grip it with my right hand, I usually spin right hand forward, so that more or less controls the twist. I have a tension Lazy Kate, and I just kind of cranked up the tension on that and had it sitting next to me so that I could control that, and the cone of the silk thread was sitting on the floor at my feet, and I used my left hand really to kind of regulate the twist. But anyway, this is what it looks like. You can't really see, but it is a big skein, and it's hangs pretty true. It's, so it's because it's basically a single with that, it's applied silk thread. So what really hurt my wrist this week was skeinin this up, because I just have a nitty knotty, and I wanted to see, what it looked like when it was skeined and washed and all of that. And going back, that hurt my wrist. I had to take lots of breaks because this ended up to be 1,476 yards, so almost 1,500 yards. And but remember, this is just like a single. I didn't apply it back on itself. It would have been 700, and this is like 3 ounces. So I think I have plenty to knit a really nice size Estonian lace shawl, which is what the plans for this are going to be. You can't really see well, maybe you can. I'll have to see it. It kind of gives the look of a spiral a little bit because you've got a single with applied thread, but it's really fine, and it seems like really uniform thickness on the single. So I'm very, very happy with the yarn. So then I just have a couple other last little things for show and tell. We do have the drawing for the Color Tracks hat pattern by Melissa Transtrom. I locked the thread earlier this morning and used the random number generator to pick a winner, and it came up with number 14, which was Photo Knit Gal, who was Robbie from Florida. So Robbie, when you see this, let me know. I could just tell Melissa to send you the pattern, but I think it's more fun to kind of hear your name like that when it was drawn. So let me know when you see this, and then I'll contact Melissa and have her send the pattern over to you. And then just the one last little thing that I have for show and tell that is not knitting related at all, but it was yesterday. I went and I bought something that I wanted to show you. If you remember, that last year I showed you kind of all the little birds that I put on the Christmas tree. They were all ones that we'd collected over the past few years. Down about 40 minutes away from me, there's always kind of at this week, they have a Christkindl market, which is kind of the outdoor German market. They hold it in a tent, and a lot of times they have heat blown in because it's can be really cold. We've been there. I've been there when it was kind of 0 Fahrenheit temperature. Yesterday it was beautiful. It was actually warm in there because there were a ton of people. But a lot of people come up. It's at a really nice resort, and a lot of people kind of come up and stay there, and like from Chicago, and do all their Christmas shopping. And they have people come from Europe, from Germany and Turkey, and with things. And then they also have some local kind of handcrafted, people, bringing their handcrafted things. They had some alpaca people from De Pere. And anyway, I haven't been for the last couple years. I always used to take my little mom, and we would, have a fun, kind of day. They have a lot of German food that they sell, and like her favorite thing to eat was hot dogs. And so she loved the little German, kind of hot dogs that they had there and stuff. So I haven't been the last couple years, but I thought this year I wanted to go, and I wanted to get a new bird, because we, collected birds there. There is a couple that have just these really cute little kind of houses that they have all the little their ornaments displayed, and I think they're German. So anyway, I wanted to get a new one, and it was a really nice day. It was actually really warm. So I drove over and I found this like fantastical like bird. So a lot of them are, I showed them on the tree last year, and they're pretty colors, and some of them they look authentic, the red cardinals and stuff. And these were all done with molds from years and years ago. People, when I posted the picture on Instagram last year, a lot of people said, "Oh, I had one of those a long time ago," and they're made from the same molds. So this year, I found this. It's a peacock. It's got the peacock feather, and this is what he looks like a swan kind of peacock. But it was more than I would normally think of spending on a Christmas tree ornament. I could not leave without him. He was just so beautiful. Most of them just have like little feathers coming out. It was a bittersweet kind of day, but I just thought needed to do it, and now I have a new bird to put up. That is all. I know it's a pretty quick show. Not so much knitting. So hopefully things will improve and be better next week. But until I see you then, from my heart to yours, happy knitting.